Hey, welcome back. Ron Ananian, the Car Doctor. You know, diesels are no longer just an 18-wheeler or an 18-wheel truck option. The diesel engine's been around a very long time, actually before the gasoline engines, to my knowledge, back in the late 1880s. And it's evolved quite a bit, and it's again come full circle, and it's back to the point that more diesels are going into passenger-type vehicles than ever before. We thought it would be appropriate to get some basic and solid information for you with regarding to the care of those diesels, and we're glad to have him with us here today, Jeff Kramer from Power Service Products. Jeff, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
The basics. You know, when you look at diesel, Jeff, and diesel to me, I've always explained to people, is a unique animal. Great concept. You've just got to do a couple of things different between taking care of it and a gasoline engine. If you were going to explain diesel engine versus gasoline engine to my mom, what would you tell her?
Well, the biggest difference between a diesel engine and a gasoline engine is that the gasoline engine is obviously spark ignition, while the diesel engine is a compression ignition engine. And in a gasoline engine, you have spark plugs that produce and help ignite the fuel. In diesels, you produce heat with compression to get the fuel and provide an environment that's hot enough for the fuel to actually combust inside the cylinder.
So in a sense, the mechanical condition of the diesel engine becomes more critical for proper operation.
Certainly.
So, you know, we talk about, and we have this conversation with people at the shop all the time and here on air, in that because of the quality of gasoline engines require certain additives to improve performance, longevity, condition of the engine. You know, the quality of gasoline today isn't what it was, I won't even say 5 years ago, isn't what it was 2 years ago. So do those gasoline additives, does that line of thinking apply to a diesel, or can we hurt the diesel using the gas additive in the diesel engine?
Well, you're not going to be able to get the same functionality of using a gasoline additive in a diesel engine. If you look at what the options, when you buy gasoline, you can buy 87 octane, 91 octane, 93. There's different grades of gasoline, and octane improvers are what improve the ignition quality and the overall performance of the fuel itself. Where diesel, it requires what's called cetane improver, which is what is used. It's by definition the overall combustibility of the fuel, the ignition rating of the diesel fuel itself. And you don't put gasoline in a diesel engine, and you wouldn't put diesel fuel in a gasoline engine. The cetane improvers that are in diesel fuel are used to improve the performance and get the fuel to actually ignite and burn at much lower temperatures inside the cylinder, so the engine doesn't have to work as hard to combust all of the fuel. Or in a gasoline engine, you've got a spark plug that is producing the heat necessary to get the fuel to burn.
You know, when I say gasoline, the quality of gasoline has changed so much in the last couple of years. Do you think that statement applies to diesel as well? Has diesel changed in its chemical or its physical makeup over the last few years?
Absolutely. In June of 2006, the EPA required the overall sulfur content in diesel fuel to be decreased from 500 parts per million down to 15 parts per million.
But in English, Jeff, taking sulfur out of the diesel fuel, to the listener, what does that mean to them?
Well, the process to remove the sulfur out of the fuel, which is called hydrotreating, they did remove the sulfur. They also removed the nitrogen. And sulfur and nitrogen are what produce and provide the natural lubricity within the fuel. And a diesel engine requires the fuel itself to both lubricate internal components like the injectors and the fuel pumps, as well as cool. And in a gasoline engine, you're not dealing with those same types of issues as far as the fuel needing to lubricate and cool the internal components of the engine. So lubricity is very, very important to the longevity of the engine itself.
So when we say lubricity, we're talking specifics to the fuel system. It has nothing to do with oil in the crankcase, how often oil is changed, and that type of thing. We're talking the actual lubricating quality. I'll simplify the term. but the lubricating quality of the fuel, and by removal of sulfur, we've compromised that, and that's something that we had no choice in. That was EPA standard.
Certainly.
Okay. So then we go looking for an additive that will help improve and maintain lubricity without damaging or hurting the EPA mandate. That's got to be a tough line to walk, correct?
It is, and the thing that we have to do as a fuel additive manufacturer is we have to make sure that our products themselves are all less than 15 parts per million sulfur, so that they do not jeopardize the the exhaust after treatment systems that are on the vehicles themselves. And in doing so, you need a product that will be less than 15 parts per million sulfur, but you also need a product like our Diesel Clean plus cetane boost that is going to give you the additional cetane that the engine needs to combust the fuel more rapidly, which will help produce more power, less emissions. But the other functionalities of Diesel Clean are also that we will provide with our slick diesel lubricator the additional lubricity that is needed to protect the vital engine components like the pumps, fuel pump, and the injectors.
So
the other, and then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
There is one more benefit
Yep.
that I'd like to touch on is the detergent package that's available in Diesel Clean as well. It's state of the art. The new injection systems that Audi and Volkswagen and Ford, all the high-pressure common rail injection systems that you're seeing today have what they call very, very tight tolerances, and it requires a detergent package to remove these deposits to keep them from the injectors from sticking.
So it sounds like when you're buying an additive, you're buying a lot of engineering behind it to make sure that additive meets the requirements and helps improve and maintain the life of the engine. Jeff, if the listeners are looking for more information, does Power Service Products have a website?
Yes,
real quick?
You can log on to www.powerservice.com to have all of your answers.
Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate the time. We'll be talking to you again real soon.